Ever feel like, your faith kind of gets left behind when Monday morning rolls around? Like, it's just part of that Sunday routine. But what if we could bring those values into the workplace? We're diving into that today.
It's a challenge a lot of people face. But this guide we're looking at, 𝐏𝐸ℵ 𝐬𝐭, it's all about making that connection, finding a way to live out our faith in our work lives, especially for us Catholics, navigating the professional world.
And it's not just about feeling good, right?
Yeah.
This source really emphasizes the idea that our jobs, our careers, they can be a way to live out our God-given purpose, which is a pretty amazing concept when you think about it.
Absolutely. It goes back to the very beginning. Think about Genesis, the Garden of Eden. It wasn't just about, apples and temptation. It was about humanity reflecting the divine through creation, through work. Tending the garden, that was our purpose. Work is part of who we are. It's how we connect with the world.
Okay, see, that's what I love. Suddenly my to-do list feels a little more meaningful, but how do we actually put this into practice? Like how do we take those Sunday values and bring them into those Monday morning meetings?
That's where the virtues come in. And what I love is this guide, it really gets into the nitty-gritty.
So not just be a good person, but actual practical steps we can take.
Exactly. Let's take diligence, for example. It's something we often associate with St. Joseph, the worker. But diligence, it's not just about meeting deadlines. It's about showing up fully, putting your heart into your work, dedicating your skills, always striving to learn and grow in your field.
Which, honestly, in today's world, with instant gratification everywhere, that can be a real challenge. And speaking of challenges, patience is another big one the source talks about. And man, I feel like that one's tested daily in the workplace.
Oh, for sure. Think about dealing with difficult colleagues or those projects that just seem to drag on forever with no end in sight. That's where patience becomes like a superpower. It helps you persevere. It helps you build relationships. Ultimately, it helps you achieve more than you could alone.
It's about playing the long game, right? Trusting that even the small, consistent efforts we make, when they're done with the right intention, they really do have a value. I like that.
Exactly. And that's just two virtues. We haven't even touched on honesty, charity, all these other core Catholic values that can transform the way we approach our work. It's about bringing purpose and meaning to every action.
So it's not about separating our faith from our work. It's about integrating it. It's about weaving it into the very fabric of our professional lives.
Exactly.
Which honestly is a relief. Because trying to be two different people Sunday to Monday, that's exhausting.
It is. And ultimately, it's just not sustainable. This approach, it's about bringing our whole selves to the table, living with authenticity in all areas of life. And, that brings us to a really interesting point. This whole idea of Catholic ethics in the workplace, it's not what you might think.
I think a lot of people, when they hear Catholic ethics and business, they kind of picture a really strict set of rules. Like we're pulling out some ancient rule book to deal with modern problems. But this guide, it's not like that at all.
Not even close. It's way more dynamic, more about acting with principle. In fact, 𝐏𝐸ℵ 𝐬𝐭 lays out 4 core principles: dignity of the person, the common good, subsidiarity, and solidarity.
Okay, those sound kind of broad. How do those actually play out in a normal workplace?
They're woven into everything. Take the first one, dignity of the person. Basically, it means that every single person, from the CEO all the way down to, the new intern, they have inherent value just because they're human.
It's not about what they do, it's about who they are.
Exactly. It changes how you approach things, how you treat people.
Yeah.
Then there's the common good. And this one pushes us to look beyond the bottom line, beyond just making a profit. It's about considering the impact our work has on society.
So are we protecting the environment? Are we creating jobs? Are we contributing to a more just world through our business practices?
All of that. It's about the bigger picture. Then we've got subsidiarity. Now that one
sounds a little intimidating, I'll be honest. Even I had to look that one up.
It's a mouthful, but so important. Basically, it means decisions should be made at the most local level possible. So instead of everything coming from the top down,
you empower those who are closest to the situation to make the call.
Yes. It's about trust, collaboration, and it really fosters a sense of responsibility at every level. Okay, and then last but not least, solidarity. And this one reminds us that we are all connected. Businesses don't exist in a vacuum. What we do impacts our employees, our community, even the environment.
We're all in this together, right?
Exactly. And when we make decisions with that awareness, with that sense of interconnectedness, it can make a huge difference.
It's funny because when you break it down like that, it's not even about being a good Catholic in the workplace, really. It's just about being a good human. It's about striving to make ethical choices that benefit everyone.
And that's what I love about these principles, honestly. They go beyond religious labels, you know? They're rooted in this deep respect for human dignity and just this desire to build a more compassionate and just world, which I think is something we can all get behind.
Okay, but let's be real. We're all human, right? We make mistakes. So what happens when we're faced with a real ethical dilemma at work? Like, what if you're being pressured to do something you know isn't right? This guy actually gives a really interesting example.
Oh, yeah. They talk about an employee who's being pressured to fudge some financial report. Classic ethical quandary. And what I appreciate is it doesn't just say don't do it. It actually offers like a roadmap for how to approach these situations.
Less preaching, more practical advice. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about this roadmap.
Well, step one, they say, is forming your conscience, which, yes, means being familiar with church teachings, but it also means educating yourself on things like your company's code of conduct, professional ethics, all of that.
So knowledge is power. Arm yourself with information.
Yes. But it's not just about, head knowledge. It's about heart knowledge, too. That's where discernment comes in.
Okay, and just to be clear for our listeners, when we talk about discernment, what do we mean?
Taking time to really sit with the situation, to pray about it, to reflect, to consider all the different angles before you take action. Think about the potential consequences your choices could have for you and for others. It's about aligning your actions with your values deep down.
Which I imagine in like a high-pressure work environment, that's got to be tough sometimes, to slow down and really think it through.
It's not always easy. And that's why they also emphasize seeking guidance, like talk to a trusted friend, find a mentor, maybe even a spiritual director if that's something that you have, because sometimes that outside perspective can provide some much needed clarity.
2 heads are better than 1, especially when those heads have a good moral compass.
Exactly. And if you've done all that, you've formed your conscience, you've taken time to discern, you've sought guidance, and you still feel like in your gut that something's wrong, then it might be time to take a stand.
Which, let's be real, that can be kind of terrifying, especially at work, right? Where there's this power dynamic at play.
It takes courage, no doubt. But 𝐏𝐴 𝐸, it reminds us that we're not alone in this. We have the support of our faith, our community, and ultimately, we're called to live with integrity, even when it's hard.
Easier said than done, but so important. So what does it look like, practically speaking, to take a stand? Am I like storming into my boss's office with a copy of the catechism?
Probably not the most effective strategy. It's about communication, but it's about doing it clearly and respectfully. Remember, this isn't about picking a fight. It's about sharing your perspective, helping them understand why you feel like a certain action might be harmful.
Being a voice of reason, not necessarily a rebel.
Yes. And honestly, sometimes just having the courage to speak up, to offer that different perspective, that can be a powerful act of faith in itself.
You can start a conversation, maybe plant a seed.
Exactly. And who knows, it might even inspire others to kind of step up and act with more integrity too.
This whole conversation about like bringing your whole self to work, it makes me think about this idea of vocation, finding your calling.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, that can feel kind of daunting. Like you're supposed to have this big aha moment where your path is revealed.
Right. Like it's going to be this big dramatic thing.
Exactly. But this guide, 𝐏𝐴 𝐸, it takes a much more, down-to-earth approach.
It does. It really emphasizes that discernment, figuring out your vocation. It's a process. It's ongoing. And it's not just about like finding the perfect job title or anything. It's about aligning your skills and your passions with something bigger, with a deeper purpose.
So it's less, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
And more like, how can I use my gifts to make a difference right now?
Exactly. And I think that really resonates with a lot of people, especially these days when so many folks are feeling kind of burnt out or unfulfilled by their jobs.
Well, yeah.
It's not just about climbing that ladder anymore. People want something more.
Absolutely. And what I appreciate about this guide, 𝐏𝐴 is it doesn't limit vocation to, priests and nuns.
Right. It's for everyone.
It's about finding that place where your specific gifts can make a difference, whatever field you're in, like no matter what you do.
It really is, whether you're like a teacher, a doctor, a writer, whatever it might be.
An entrepreneur.
Yes. Your work can be your vacation. It's about approaching it with purpose, with intentionality, using your gifts to serve others.
Which, okay, that brings us to the how-to part, right?
Yeah.
Because we've covered some Honestly, really profound stuff today.
Right.
But how do we actually make this work in our everyday lives? I mean, with deadlines and emails and everything else going on, it's easy for faith to take a back seat.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it.
But I love how, again, equilibrando trabalho e fé, it gets practical.
It does.
So what are some things we can actually do, like starting tomorrow, to bring more faith into our work lives?
Well, they really emphasize prayer and meditation.
Okay.
Even if it's just for a few minutes, during your lunch break or like on your commute, those little pockets of peace can make a world of difference.
It's about finding those moments to connect with yourself and with something bigger.
Exactly. Another thing they talk about is like finding your people. Find those Catholic professional groups, networking events even. It's a way to connect with like-minded people, share your experiences, support each other.
Because it can be tough out there. It's good to have that support system.
For sure. And don't underestimate the power of setting boundaries.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's so easy, especially these days, to just be on all the time.
Totally.
But making that separation between work life and personal time essential for your well-being and for living out your faith in a healthy way.
It's not about being a workaholic for God.
Exactly.
It's about showing up as your best self in all areas of your life.
Yes. And, when you can do that, it's not about compartmentalizing anymore. It's about integrating, bringing that sense of purpose, that meaning from your faith into your work, and vice versa.
I love that. This deep dive has been incredible. We talked about how our faith can guide us in our work lives, how Catholic ethics can help us build a better world, and how our work can be this source of real meaning and purpose.
And it all starts with recognizing that our faith, it's not something we just clock out of at 5 o'clock.
Right.
It's part of who we are all the time.
It's woven into everything.
It is. And it has the power to transform not just our work, but our lives and, even the world around us.
I love that. And you know what? One thing that this guide really got me thinking about is what happens when more workplaces actually embrace these principles?
Oh, yeah.
Just imagine the impact it could have.
Be amazing.
On company culture, on employee well-being, on society.
It's a beautiful thing to think about. And it starts with us, with each of us making that effort to bring our faith to work, one ethical decision at a time, one act of service, one moment of grace. It all adds up.
That's a great point to end on. Food for thought as you head into your week, whatever that looks like for you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, your work matters. You matter.